Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. Our webinar topic is fast tracking your LLM apps with deepset and Haystack. We'll just give a moment here to allow everybody to log in, but while we're doing that, I'll cover some of the housekeeping items. My name is Jay Wilder. I'm the VP of Marketing and Developer Relations here at deepset, where we help make it easy and fast to create custom AI applications that really fit your exact needs. And today we're going to be talking about how to transform your ideas and proofs of concepts into production-ready AI applications, a fraction of the cost and time, through our offerings both on the open source and commercial side, and see how those actually really fit together. Before we do that, though, let's just go through some of the quick items here ahead of the content. So today's webinar is going to be recorded. You'll get a copy of this sent to you following the webinar with some additional information as well to easily follow up. And please make use of the Q&A tool to submit questions. You can add those in at any time during today's presentation. So as questions come up, just drop them in there. We will have time at the end of the presentation to go through those. And if there's anything else top of mind, or if you're having any technical issues, etc., we will be monitoring the chat as well. So there's a Q&A and a chat here in the Zoom call. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's agenda. So before we get into kind of the meat of the presentation, we'll just take a quick moment here up front. I'll guide you through deepset as a company, our mission, what we're all about, how we're trying to help the community build faster and smarter. And then we're going to take a nice deep dive into the Haystack open source framework to see how this enables a very flexible and modular way of building LLM applications quickly to get them into production, but also to maintain them over time as this ecosystem continues to change so dynamically. Then we're going to see how deepset Studio, a new offering from deepset, that's our community version of deepset Cloud and available to use for free, augments that, builds on top of that with tooling, infrastructure, different types of templates and applications that make it even faster and easier to build. And then we'll talk a bit about how that levels up into deepset Cloud, our enterprise offering that's really perfect for teams that are looking to deploy AI applications at scale. And of course, at the end, we'll go through some next steps and those questions that you guys will hopefully be sharing throughout the presentation. Okay, so let's go ahead and meet today's speakers. I'm Jay Wilder, as I mentioned, VP of Marketing and DevRel. I'm also joined by Bilge Ujil, who's our Developer Relations Engineer. Probably many of you on the call here today, if you're from the community already in Haystack, I bet you already know Bilge. And Tobias Wahinger is our engineering team lead, who's right on the front lines, working together with the community and our customers, building out the deepset platform, both for Studio and the enterprise side as well. I'm going to kick things off, as I said, with just a little bit about who we are, and I'll turn it over to Bilge and Tobias to bring us through the next sections. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about deepset and our mission. I mean, fundamentally, I think to kind of say very succinctly, we want to help developers, companies, organizations customize Gen AI to work your way. We believe fundamentally that your use cases, the things that you need to build, really need to reflect your users' needs. And so we want to build flexible tooling, flexible frameworks that allow you to do that really without compromise, but also do it in a way that's super fast, super flexible, and very, very efficient. And I think as we go through today's sections, you'll see how that's being expressed through Haystack and deepset together. Our point of view and our kind of laser focus on making customization simple comes from our experience in the space, and probably like many of you on the call here today, we've been in this space for some time. We've been building in the AI space since 2018, um, from a time period where there really weren't too many tools yet to actually leverage off the shelf. If you go all the way back to Google BERT is coming out, attention is all you need is being read. Deepset started working with large public and private organizations, building bespoke AI solutions, and kind of learning what's challenging, what's hard, but also what's repeatable, what can be abstracted, what could be made simpler. And those learnings were codified into the Haystack framework, which we're going to go through in just a moment, into a building block design. So you can get the flexibility, but you can get the speed as well to build very, very quickly. We continue to look at what the next set of challenges are, and in concert with hearing from our community, and started to then build on top of Haystack with DeepSet Cloud. And the initial version came out in 2022. And this is where we start to look at things like the challenges of infrastructure and deployment, the challenges of what's the right tooling to sort of methodically move through an iterative process, and testing and evaluation, ways to make it simpler to get to specific solution archetypes that are pretty common and repeatable. And very excited just over the last month that we've now made DeepSet Studio available for the community in a developer edition. So it's a great way to get in to the cloud, to start building right away. And you can sign up for free and get building right away. So we'll take you through that here today. But yeah, our journey has been very much informed by kind of walking through these challenges ourselves, like many of you are, and taking those learnings and building tools and software to make it simpler. And I think throughout all of it, it's been really important to acknowledge that the industry is always changing. It's super dynamic. It's really exciting and innovative. There's new models coming out all the time. We've certainly seen that over the last year. It's been quite a race and a lot of positive competition in that space. There's also different ways that we like to work with our data, store our data, process our data. And so we want to make sure that the tooling that we provide to the community and to our customers is flexible, so that you can pick and choose for what works best for you today and tomorrow, and orchestrate that up into applications through Haystack, and then really scale that out and accelerate it through DeepSet. So it's this combination of flexibility with orchestration, with tooling, infrastructure, and support. So ultimately, what we want to help everybody here do is develop much faster, but also do it with trust through robust testing and monitoring, so that you really feel secure that, hey, this is ready for production, this is ready for adoption, and having the flexibility to say, I want this job to run in the cloud, or I need this to run in on-premise, or I need this to be in VPC. Whatever that deployment requirement is, again, there should be no compromise on your side. It should just map to what the requirements are. And so that's really a good kind of window into the DNA there of how we approach things. So now that you're getting a little bit of a sense of who DeepSet is, I'd like to offer up a poll question here to all of us on the call. How would you characterize your role in AI at your org? So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Are you a builder? Are you an executive sponsor? Are you a beneficiary as a business user of these applications? Maybe you're a consultant helping companies or organizations build as well. So I'm going to let that fill in here a little bit. Just take a moment and let us know, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. Okay. So with that full stack framework, what we're seeing across the community and customers is building of all types of sorts, right? And mapping the right architectures to the right use cases, whether it be retrieval augmented generation in its very simple or common form to very advanced use cases, or in some cases bringing things like GraphRag, seeing a lot more, as probably you guys are as well, around agentic behaviors, being able to hold state, being able to take actions, being able to hold memory, things like that. Seeing some very interesting use cases around conversational BI, so being able to use our structured and numerical data together with our unstructured data to be able to tell better data stories, to be able to better democratize our data. Q&A, semantic search, multimodal, all of these are all coming together at once. And these are all different types of application patterns that we support through Haystack and through deepset. It's been super exciting on a few fronts this year to see the reception of this approach. On the one hand, just in the last month, Gartner recognized deepset as being a cool vendor in AI engineering. It's a great recognition, not only for the work that we've brought into the ecosystem, but it's really a reflection of the success of the community and the adoption of Haystack across the enterprise, across mid-market and SMB, as well as on the deepset side and the enterprise platform being used by some of the leading companies today in the world. Kind of more down to earth as well. It's really just great to hear back from the community about the success that you're achieving, right? The things that we're building with AI are not just to build AI, right? It's really to solve things for our customers, for our employees, for our teams, and to be able to do that in a way that is very trusted and very flexible and very fast. Companies like YPulse that serve the market research space, helping companies understand millennials and Gen Zs and building customer-facing chat applications to be able to really open up that research, open up that trend data. They're seeing great results. Organizations like Zeit Online for new subscribers, being able to allow them to get deeper into the story and doing that in a much more cost and resource efficient way. Companies like Airbus that really need to make sure that responses are mission critically accurate. So if you're a pilot, you're a technician, you can get to that information you need in a split second and you can really trust in it. These are the types of things that really inspire us to continue to innovate. And it's great to hear that feedback in the market. And it's great to hear in the community as well, what we're hearing from community users talking about the Haystack framework, talking about its well-done documentation, its abstraction, giving you sort of enough simplicity there, but also giving you that flexibility that you need to build whatever your use case really dictates, all the way down to super customizable components that we're going to hear about in just a moment. All of these, again, are super, super inspiring, and we thank everybody for sharing that feedback that drives us to the next innovations. So with that, let's turn it over to you, Bilge. Let's talk through Haystack so we get a firm understanding of how the framework works, and then we'll take that to the next step and see how that plugs into deepset with Toby coming up next. So take it away, Bilge.
Thank you, Jay, for sharing all the information. It's great to see how Haystack and deepset goes together. Hello, everyone. My name is Birgem. I work as a developer relations engineer at deepset and mainly for Haystack. Haystack is an open source Python framework for building production-ready LLM applications. And it provides you the tools that you need to build and customize state-of-the-art AI systems. And modularity is quite important for us. This is also how we design Haystack. In Haystack, there are two main building blocks, components and pipelines. Components are the smaller unit. They do one thing, but they are really good at it. And by connecting components to each other, we form pipelines. So let's look at one of the pipeline examples together. This is what a very basic RAG pipeline with Haystack looks like. First of all, I have a query, right? And then I have my embedded component. This component gets the user query and generates a query embedding by using the models above. And the model that you can use, the embedding model that you can use, can be from Hugging Face. So it can be an open source model, or you can be a closed source model running behind an API. Then as the next step, I have a retriever component. This is a component that is connected to my database. It gets the query embedding from the embedder and retrieves the relevant information from my document store. And wherever I want to store my data, I can do that. There are a lot of integrations in Haystack. As the third component in my pipeline, I have prompt builder. This Prompt builder gets the relevant information from the retriever and the user query. And of course, I have a prompt template defined in this pipeline, and it renders the final prompt for me. And the generator component, as the last component in that pipeline, gets that render prompt. And again, by using the model providers above, it generates a response. And as I said, you can use an open source model, you can use platforms like Azure or AWS, or you can use APIs such as OpenAI or Anthropic. Let's go. So this is the exact code of the same pipeline. I wanted to show you this because if you are not, even though you are not familiar with Python, it's quite easy to understand what we are doing in this pipeline. So the first thing that I do is to add these components one by one to my pipeline with the add component function of the pipeline. So my first component is sentence transformers text embedder. So it means that I'm going to use a sentence transformers model from Hugging Face, and my model's name is all mini LM L3v2. As the second component, I have a retriever. This is in-memory embedding retriever that is connected to the in-memory document store. This document store is the built-in one that we have in Haystack. You can definitely use it for your demos or POCs when you want to build something quickly and you don't want to deal with like creating your vector store from scratch. Third component, we have the prompt builder. It gets the prompt. And then I have my OpenAI generator initialized with GPT-4o mini. Then I connect these components in the right way or in whichever way I want. And when I run this pipeline with the query that I have, I get the results. I get the valid answer. But of course, this is not the only thing that you can build with Haystack. The pipelines in Haystack are graphs, directed graphs. So it means that you can have loops and branches and you can merge branches. So it gives you a lot of flexibility as you build your whole application. And Haystack comes with a lot of built-in components and a lot of integrations. But if you think that you have a very specific tool that you use in your organization, or you have a very custom use case, you can easily define your custom component and plug it into your pipeline without any problems. And this is the very basic code of a custom component. The only thing that you need to do is to define your Python class with the component decorator that we have in Haystack, and then have a run method. And in this run method, you can connect to your API, or you can do some sort of calculations, conditions. It depends on your use case, basically. But every component in Haystack is written in that form. And if you write your component in that form, you will easily put that into your pipeline. But since we said that the pipelines in Haystack are graphs, so the use case and the needs can get quite complex, and I can also make my pipeline quite complex. And this is an example of a pipeline with a fallback, aka with branching. Imagine the RAG pipeline that I showed you previously. By just connecting a conditional router right after that, I can check whether the answer coming from that pipeline is a valid one that I can show to my users, for example, or it's not a valid one, so I need to do something else. And this something else can be going to web search, or warning my engineering team about that by connecting to the other tools that we have out there. And the condition that I define here can be anything. So I am, again, quite flexible here as I define my pipeline. Another example that you can build with Haystack is a self-reflecting agent. And for that one, we are using the looping mechanism that we have in the pipelines. So as always, you do the regular generation with the prompt builder and the generator component. And then you have another component, reflection component, or you name it. This will be a custom one. And then you can check whether the answer coming from the generator is a valid one. And if it's not, you can go back to the generation part and try it again, maybe with a different prompt, maybe with a different approach. And this comes quite handy if you are doing entity extraction or if you need structured outputs coming from your pipeline. You can also use this for autocorrection without any human intervention. But these are not the only things that you can build with Haystack. We have a lot of cookbooks and tutorials if you want to see the other use cases of Haystack. Of course, we have a very well-written documentation. We always get praises about that. And if you have a tool that you need to connect to. It can be a model provider, a vector store, or evaluation framework. You can go to our integrations page and see the whole integrations of Haystack. And if you are writing your custom component, feel free to also contribute to that one and share it with the other community members.
Awesome. Thanks, Bilge. That was a great walkthrough of Haystack. So you get the sense, right, that this is a super flexible framework, right? That you've got the building blocks, but you can arrange them, you can swap them, you can move them around. You can go from very simple to complex across a range of those different solution architectures that we talked about in the first section. Before we move forward, let's go ahead and take a look at that poll result. If we could bring that up here. So great. So got a lot of builders in the audience here today. This is perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about. So we're all in the right place here together, but we also are welcoming some of our executive sponsors, business users, consultants. So we've got a great kind of mixed group here. Thank you guys for sharing that feedback with us. Okay, so with that, before I go into the next section, I'm going to ask maybe the next poll as well. We'll come back to this in a little bit. I'd like to ask, where are you in your generative AI journey? Are you exploring? Are you evaluating? Are you building? Are you deploying? We see and have conversations with folks all the time that are still kind of researching, kind of understanding what's available. Certainly seeing a lot of folks out there that are evaluating different approaches, which is a great thing to do. There's a lot of different approaches out there. Or maybe you're actually building, you're in demos and prototypes and on that road to production, or maybe you're already there. Give your answer there. We'd love to see where you are in your journey. Okay, so we'll come back to that. All right. So as Bilge was talking about with the Haystack community and the framework and sort of all that interaction in the last slide of the ways that we support and interact together, whether it's online, digitally, in the real world, whether hackathons and meetups or on Git. We've also been hearing a lot of great constructive feedback, and it's been great to hear it because you guys have been sharing with us, what's still challenging, what's still hard, what's still complex, and that has been definitely a great input to feeding our roadmap and understanding what we should be working on next to help you. And I think there's some common themes that I alluded to up front. Infrastructure is definitely one of them. So being able to deploy, being able to deal with compute, being able to deal with memory, things like that. Are there ways that we can make that simpler and easier so that as you're building that prototype, it's just ready to go, it's ready to test, it's ready to share, right? And when we're through that process of iterating, it's just ready to go. So that's one area that we've been hearing a lot about. Certainly been hearing about iteration, right? With a non-deterministic technology like LLMs, you need to test, you need to understand how this system is going to work. You want to battle test it, right? You want to bring in those subject matter experts that can tell you those corner cases where maybe the solution isn't quite working yet. And you want to be able to go through and isolate which components and which attributes we need to work on. And maybe we need to add a custom component, as Bilge mentioned, to make this be fully production ready. So that's been something we've been hearing about. To the right on the side of the screen, this was shared by one of our Haystack community members, just kind of sharing, some of these solutions we're building are getting really complex. It's hard to keep track of everything, right? As you can see, all that, the complexity of that pipeline. Are there ways to simplify and visualize that so I can see it, I can share it, we can collaborate on it? So these have all been really, really great feedbacks into the team. And this is what's really been inspiring us to build, on top of Haystack to solve these next set of challenges and turn them into opportunities for all of us. So now we have a good understanding of the componentry and the pipeline, how those fit together. As we go into the next section, we're going to learn how the DeepSet Enterprise platform really fits right on top of that framework. And it starts to give us more simplicity and flexibility around things like infrastructure. So the ability to work in the cloud, to be able to deploy into the cloud, but also retaining our flexibility to go on-prem, baking in more and more security features as we start to scale out, have more team members getting involved, more departments, et cetera. keeping that open ecosystem approach so that the data, the LLMs, the integrations, we can make use of all of those. We don't have to depart from that. Having that tooling to build, test, deploy, and monitor. We're going to see that in just a moment, what that looks like. And then kind of continuing that building block ethos to say, well, what's beyond pipelines and components? We can get it to templates, we can get it to applications, we can actually quick start and move even faster to some of those architectural areas that we want to create. So as we were turning into just the last, I'd say at the end of the summer and into the early fall, we started engaging with the community to say, how do we open this up for the developer community? We've got the enterprise platform, we've got organizations and teams coming on, but what if I'm just a single user and I want to be able to go in here and I want to try this out, I want to test it, I want to use it, and I want to get going right away? This is where Studio comes in. And so Studio is now available. As I said, it's for free. And rather than continue to maybe talk about it, I think it's probably a good chance for us to actually see it in action. And so, Toby, I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to turn it over to you. And let's go ahead and check out the deepset platform with Studio. And yeah, take it away.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tobias. I'm the team lead of the team who brought deepset Studio to you. So now I'm sharing my screen for the demo. In today's demo, we're going to build a real quick RAG application with deepset Studio. So what you can now see here is the homepage of deepset Studio, providing you all the important information of your deepset Studio account at one glance. You can see where you are within your usage limits in deepset Studio, but also how your applications are used by your users. As I said, we want to build a RAG application today. So to actually have something to do retrieval on, you need to start by uploading data. In deepset Studio, you have two ways to actually upload data. Either you can upload your own files. So you can do that here in the UI, but you can also use the API or our SDKs to do so. Especially, we recommend the SDK if you have large data to upload or a lot of files to upload. Then it's rather, then you can also do this with deepset Studio. The alternative way to get really started quickly is to use our sample files, and this is what we actually are gonna do as part of our demo. In this case, I will use our AI application sample files. Now we can see the uploaded files, and just that you can get a feel for the data which we are using for this demo, we can actually have a look at the data using the preview options. As you can see here, the data consists of a bunch of PDFs extracted from the Haystack blog, talking about the role of pre-processing in RAG. Now that we have uploaded the data, we can actually start building the Haystack pipeline to do retrieval on this data. I don't want to start from scratch. Starting from scratch is always a bit cumbersome, right? It's always easier if you have just something to get started with. This is why I really actually like our pipeline templates. And not just because I have this template, it's also because I know these pipeline templates are actually built by our solution engineering team. Our solution engineering team works day to day with our customers and is really good in coming up with best practices and then digests all the knowledge in our pipeline templates. So by getting these templates, I'm not only getting started quickly, but I also get all of the knowledge. And this is something really useful, especially for me getting started here. So as I said, we want to build a RAG application here. So we're going to use the RAG question answering template here. So you can see in the detail that it generates natural language responses. It has human-like interaction experience, and it works based on our data. So exactly what we want here. So let's use this template. Now that we have created this, we have used the template, you can now actually see the pipelines created in our pipeline builder. So let me quickly zoom into this part here. You can see an indexing tab and a query tab. So the indexing at this template actually comes with two pipelines, one for pre-processing your data, storing it in the document store, and then also the query pipeline part. And now I'm going to walk you through the pipeline and how it works. So the pre-processing indexing pipeline starts with the files we've just uploaded and then forwards into a file classifier. The file classifier actually classifies the documents and separates them depending on their type, right? So we can have text files, you can have PDFs, Markdown, Word files, Excel, and so on. Based on these classification results, we then use different converters to actually convert the files into text data. So if we start from the top, we can see there is an Excel converter, there's the PowerPoint converter, the text converter, and most importantly, the PDF converter, because actually all the data that we uploaded is all PDF files. So this is actually the only converter which will have to do the work during the indexing. Further down, you then have the Markdown converter and the HTML converter, as well as the Word converter. The converted documents then go into a document joiner, combining all the converted results, splitting it into chunks for better embedding, and then going actually into another joiner. This is because we have a CSV converter and the Excel converter here, which actually puts out tables. And we don't want to split the tables, right? We want to keep the tables together. So we shouldn't split these. This is why we have a separate joiner here. And then we embed all of the documents and write them into the document storage. Talking about the document storage, you're probably wondering is like, how do I provide my document storage to DeepSet Studio? Cool thing is about DeepSet Studio, it comes with a default document store. So you can use the OpenSearch document store by us. You don't need to provide any credentials. It is just there in the background. So this is really easy for you to get started with DeepSet Studio, and you don't have to worry about getting API keys or deploying any document store on your own. But if you want to do that, go for it. These provide Quadrant, VV8, Pinecone, Elasticsearch. You can use all of them and bring them to DeepSet Studio, so you're not logged in and can use all of the Haystack ecosystem. Let's now move to the query pipeline. So the query pipeline starts with a query. We then embed this query, so we can do dense retrieval. And then we're actually also doing sparse retrieval using a BM25 retriever. This is where you can already see the knowledge of our solution engineering team coming in, doing hybrid retrieval here to really get the best of our data and the best out of our pipeline. The results are then joined in our document joiner, sent to a re-ranker, which actually then prioritizes the documents. We have the most important documents at the top, going in our prompt builder, then to OpenAI, and then we actually return the answer out of our pipeline. The pipeline builder, as you might have seen, DeepSet Studio V1, which we launched in August, was back then really the central piece. Now here it's a very important part of our user journey and really the key part for you to edit all of the pipelines and really speeds up your pipeline development process, but also helps you to understand really what's going on. For example, here in the prompt builder, you can just jump into the pipeline template and actually see what's going on and understand. You can also draw from examples here, making it really easy for you to edit the template. So just to illustrate you a bit how you can also work with the pipeline builder, let's pretend we don't like the OpenAI generator here and rather want to use Claude. You just delete this component, go to the sidebar and looking for different generators. You can just search for it. And you can see there's so many generators. And that's because we actually integrate with all of the Haystack integrations, more than 130 components. In our case, I actually want to use the Anthropic generator and wire it up with the rest of my pipeline. That's as easy as connecting the prompt output from the prompt builder with the prompt here, and then the replies with the answer builder, the meta as well. And that's how easy it is. One little detail I want to show you before we actually use that pipeline and do our retrieval is the export code. At DeepSet Studio, you're not logged in, right? We are using Haystack under the hood, and it's really the core of DeepSet Studio. So you can always, whatever you build, you can always export it either as YAML or even get the direct Python code out of the pipeline builder to just copy the code and run it locally on your machine. Really leveraging the ecosystem here. Once we're done with building the pipeline, you can just click on the Save button and then on Deploy. This will actually validate the pipeline and then deploy it on our machines. We're actually doing some heavy lifting here in the background, right? Looking for the suitable machines with GPU on AWS, running the indexing, loading the models for the embedding and the re-ranking from Hugging Face. So this can take a bit of time. So what I actually have prepared here is an already deployed pipeline, which I want to show you here. So this is the same pipeline as you've just seen, just already deployed. So this is the playground. We really encourage you to use the playground to try out your pipeline, get a feel for how it works. And in our case, we can just ask now, for example, what is compound AI, and query the data. And you see the pipeline answers based on our data. It says compound AI is a design principle that involves creating an AI system using multiple interaction components. You can also see that we have these references here, making it really easy for you to validate what your pipeline is doing. You just click away this error. Seems I made a mistake when building the other one. Making it really easy for you to validate the answers. You can really quickly double check these references. And also, if you want to be more sophisticated, even look in the debug logs, seeing how every little piece flows through your pipeline, what every single component returns. So you can actually double check that everything works as you expected, especially if you're using branching or looping, this can be really beneficial. Cool, yeah, now we have built a RAG application within minutes, and I hope that demonstrated to you how you can speed up your pipeline development workflows with DeepSet Studio.
Thanks, Toby. I think I have one more question before we continue with the slides, but we talked about custom components. Does DeepSet Studio support custom components, and how?
Yeah, of course. Very good point, Birgit. Customization is key, especially for our Haystack community. So this is why it was especially important for us to actually support custom components in DeepSet Studio. And you can just upload them through our API and then use them in the pipeline builder as you would use any other component. Actually, before this webinar, I uploaded some special Toby components, the Toby character splitter and the Toby keyword booster. You can just pull them from the sidebar onto the canvas, and you can see it just looks and feels like any other component. The only difference is that you have this additional versioning key here so that you know that you use the latest version of your custom component.
Really cool, thanks. And the other question that I have is, can I share the pipeline that I deployed with other people, and how do I do that?
Yeah, sharing a pipeline is actually a workflow we really encourage you. We have seen that we have many builders out there today. And when you build something, it's always super important to get real user feedback. Looking at the data is always good, but nothing really kind of replaces talking to real users and giving them what you built. So that's why sharing a pipeline here and getting the feedback on it is something, yeah, which we really recommend doing. And what you can just do is going to your deployed pipeline, click on the share button and generate a share link. And you can actually just share that then with everyone. They don't need to sign up to DeepSet Studio, so they can just use this link. Seems now it just takes some time to generate. Maybe that's because I did that before. Let me quickly refresh. Yeah, I think there's some network trouble here, but I can share the link later on.
Live demos, right?
Live demos, exactly, yeah. There you go.
So just to add on, Toby, to some of Bill Gates' questions, there's a question I just saw come in, just in terms of like deploying, like, you know, maybe just talk through what it looks like to deploy to production, and then, you know, being able to access your pipeline through API. If you want to, let's say, connect that to a front end experience that is the best place, you know, best flow of work, you know, for your end users.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess we've answered the question there. So yeah, basically, they're seeming to your question. The deployment, right, Toby, is it's basically single click, basically to deploy out. And we actually were in a state of development deployment already as you were starting to share that with an end user. So that step which is one that usually seems like would be like a very complex, is actually just kind of like button click within DeepSet Cloud. And then we have within our documentation all the API information to tap into the API and connect it into your application. Okay.
Exactly. DeepSet Studio does all the heavy lifting in the background for you. So it scales up depending on your traffic, and also scales down if you have no traffic, so that you can actually save costs. And then the API reference, etc., is actually documented in our documentation. So it's really exposed to you as developers out there, so you can find the perfect integration path of DeepSet Studio with your application.
Thanks, Toby. That was great. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's bring up our last poll response and see where everybody was rating themselves in their journey. This is a pretty evenly split here. So 35% are exploring, 29% of you are evaluating solutions, 27% are in the act of building, and 10% are currently in a state of deployment or in production. This is pretty common, actually. I think these stats measure up or compare, pretty well to what we see in our research, as well as the things that you might be reading in, let's say, Gartner, Forrester. Is that many of us are still on the beginning side of this journey, figuring out the right ways to build, exploring different solutions, exploring different tools, and getting some of our first use cases into production. So, thank you guys for sharing that feedback. Great. Okay, so you just got a chance to now see what Studio looks like, and kind of bridging that off of what Bilge brought us through, right? Those pipelines and components now become visualized, right, inside of Studio, and we can see how we can drag and drop that componentry. We saw it in the code. Now we're seeing it, on the screen. We flip to the other side, like Toby did, right, to show us that it is still one-to-one with that code. We can still get to it. It's in YAML, it's in Python, so that's wonderful. It's been great to hear the feedback so far from community and the users as folks have been coming in, talking about it as being more simpler, being able to help build faster, etc. That's really what it's all designed to do, is to simplify, to make it faster and easier to build these applications. And we look forward, as we share the link at the end of this presentation, for all of you to get into the platform and share your feedback with us, positive as well as constructive. We're always innovating, so let us know your ideas of how we can also make things better too. So let's kind of summarize things up here a little bit, and then I see a lot of questions coming in through the chat and Q&A, so we'll have a lot to talk about over the next till the end of the call. But to kind of summarize here, what the family of capabilities is, it looks like across what we've just seen is, on the Haystack side, this is a great way to build, right? It's open source, it's based on Python. It is designed to be modular, swappable, flexible for those production-ready applications. And that then moves into DeepSet Studio. So as you're building, you want to accelerate that building process. As we said, this is the free community version. It starts to bring in those tools and those templates that we just saw. Starts to bring in that infrastructure so that we can start to test and iterate and deploy these. Still gives us that flexibility, though, of the underlying Haystack framework. And then the DeepSet Cloud platform is really similar to what we just saw, except that it's really built for teams. So now I want to be able to centralize multiple builders, multiple developers. I want to be able to bring in my subject matter experts, so I have a multi-user, multi-tenant environment. I've now got even more tools in there, more templates in terms of deployment. This is really perfect for any scale, as Toby mentioned. It auto scales up to wherever you need it to go. Built in with security, service and support, as we mentioned, Toby mentioned, a lot of that is codified into the template tree that we saw there, but you also have direct access to our team. So if you want to connect and get best practices, or discuss kind of key design decisions, even have help building that first application if you've got a hard deadline in 90 days and we must deploy this and we really want to bring the DeepSet team in to make sure that we can hit that target. Those are things that we love to lean in and help with as well. And again, just extending what we saw with Haystack with more on top. Okay. So now we're coming to the conclusion here. We'll have a chance to connect together and go through some of these questions. I do want to thank everybody just up front for spending this time so far with us this morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're calling in from. Before we do that, let me ask one more poll question here. Something that, as I was watching your other poll questions come back, I was pretty interested to find out, what are your top use cases for Gen AI? What's top of mind right now? Is it retrieval augmented generation? Is it agents? Is it IDP, intelligent document processing? Is it search? Or is it other things? Do we have that poll coming up? Well, we'll see if it comes up. There it is. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what's top of mind for you. It's a single choice, so pick your best guess or your best choice there. You may be actually building multiple of these, but give us what's top of mind for you. And we'll check on that a little bit later as well. Okay. So let's talk about a few of these QR codes here. I saw in the chat some folks were asking for the link to get Studio Now. That is to the furthest to the left. So if you don't want to just hold up your phone there, you'll get the link to that. We'll also be sharing these in an email follow-up too. So if you want the link on your desktop or laptop, it'll be coming that way as well. If you're interested in learning more about DeepSet Cloud, you're thinking about my team, centralizing lots of pipelines in one place, being able to auto scale to any level or getting that enterprise support, that's a great opportunity to connect with us and just learn more. No pressure or anything like that. We're happy to share how we can help and how DeepSet Cloud is helping other customers. And then if you're curious about the Gartner Cool Vendor Report to learn about what they said about DeepSet, as well as other interesting players emerging in the AI space, that's a great report, and that's available complimentary, so you can grab that too. Of course, in the lower left-hand corner, you can check out our website, DeepSet AI, and haystack.deepset AI to continue there as well. And Bill Gabe, before we get to the Q&A, we have a kind of a cool event going on right now as well for the community. Do you want to just share a few words about what's happening with Advent of Haystack?
Yeah, thank you. So Advent of Haystack is actually a great way of learning more about Haystack and the other integrations that we have. So it's throughout the month of December, we are going to release 10 challenges built with Haystack. And the day 4 was out yesterday, and the DeepSet Studio Challenge will come out tomorrow. So if you watch this webinar, you will have a high chance of completing tomorrow's challenge in a very short time, I promise. So all you need to do is to go to our website, and you will see a banner, Advent of Haystack there, and you will see some of the doors are open. So go ahead, read the story. There are very cool and funny stories there. Complete the challenge and submit your solution to us. And by the end of this month, if you complete all challenges by the end of December, you'll get a chance to win some great prizes from us and from our partners.
Wonderful. Yeah, super fun, super festive, great way to connect, get your hands on, solve some cool challenges, connect with the community, and maybe come away with some cool stuff as well. Okay, let's pull up that poll result and we'll go to the Q&A right after that. Okay, looks like RAG is the champion here. We've got RAG coming in at 41%, IDP coming in at 10%, agents 36%, search at 5%, and other 8%. I'm curious to see what the other ones are as well. I'd love to maybe follow up and learn more about what else you're building out there. All right, good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and stop sharing so we can head over to the Q&A. Okay. Okay. Let's go through some of these. Okay, so this one actually came up reflecting on the poll results there. So we talked about IDP earlier. How does DeepSet support IDP. Okay, so IDP, intelligent document processing. So intelligent document processing, this is, if you're familiar or unfamiliar, we'll just kind of go through it real quickly. Let's say you have a business process that's a very repeatable process, where you have a certain set of questions or criteria that you go through on a, let's say, daily, weekly basis. It's something that you kind of continually perform as a job. Some examples of that might be, hey, we're in banking and we're doing due diligence. And so we want to look at all these applications that are coming in, these memos, and we want to be able to extract the right information and make conclusions about whether these applicants, these borrowers would be good fits for our different lending products. Well, that would be a perfect, example of that. Or maybe I'm in private equity and I'm looking at investment opportunities and I've got lots of pitch decks and pitch memos and I want to apply that same sort of criteria against it. Or maybe I'm doing, financial research and I need to look at all those public earnings statements and ask a series of questions that reflect our point of view about what's interesting or valuable within companies within a specific space. Maybe switching out of financial services, health and life sciences. Maybe we're, looking at doing some clinical testing of a new healthcare product or maybe a new pharmaceutical drug. And so again, we had many numerous, applicants maybe for that trial, and we want to be able to use a series of criteria to go pick, shortlist who would be the best for that. Those are all really great examples of IDP. So in deepset, we run this on what we call jobs. We didn't go through that in the demo. It's a part of the enterprise platform where you can actually set these up with the questions, with the pipeline to basically run over these run over this data on an automated fashion. Oftentimes, it requires looking at data information that is multimodal, oftentimes includes visual information as well as text-based information. So oftentimes see a lot of OCR used in those types of setups. And we're actually bringing out right now to market a kind of full app for IDP. So not only do you get all the back end, but it comes with a composable front end as well that your users can easily interact with, add their own data, etc. So definitely a big area that we're seeing, specifically within the regulated industries, but oftentimes within any business, there's repeatable processes with paperwork and things like that that need to get solved, and Gen AI is a great way to apply it to it. We're seeing in some of our customer results speeding up that process, by up to 40-50%. So cutting the time in half, which is really great. That means there's more time to focus on more critical tasks and maybe serve more patients, serve more borrowers, etc. in those scenarios. Okay, great question. Okay, let's dive into the next ones here. So I see a couple questions here just around differentiation between the Haystack framework and maybe other frameworks that are out there. This is a popular space, right? Certainly seeing Haystack being mentioned, in the same breath as other types of solutions, like maybe a LangChain or Llama Index or semantic kernel. Maybe Bilge, if you can walk us through a little bit about how we think about this, what you hear from the community as being kind of those key differentiators, as why Haystack as a framework.
Yeah, actually, great question. I can say a lot about Haystack. First of all, it's modular. So you basically have a lot of component options. And as you're building your Lego, you're building your application, it gives you a lot of flexibility. And you understand that when your use case gets quite complex, not when you first start building your application, because usually you start with something simple. But when you start going towards your production state, you'll understand that, okay, like having a modular framework becomes quite handy. And the other thing is Haystack is quite customizable. So if something is not working for you, you can easily replace it, as Toby replaced one component at deepset Studio. Basically, you can write your own custom component, and maybe it can be a new generator, a new conditional router, a new prompt builder, it really depends on your use case. So it's a very big strength of Haystack compared to the other frameworks or tools out there, we can say that. And another thing is Haystack is quite transparent. So it's easy to debug. You see every output and every input of your component. And it's also quite visible at DeepSet Studio. When you see the logs, you see each input, you see the input to each component, you see the output coming from each component, and it gives you a lot of transparency. And when you're building your application, especially if it's a looping pipeline or like a branching pipeline, it comes quite handy. It gives you the full control of the pipeline. I think these are the main points of like Haystack's strengths, but of course the list goes on. You can check the documentation. It's also very powerful compared to the other frameworks out there. And yeah, check the tutorials and cookbooks. We have a lot of examples there. And join our Discord if you have more questions and if you like to have a chat about this. I am quite online there all the time, so I'm happy to answer your questions there.
Thanks, Bilge. And thanks for that question. That came up from multiple folks. It's a great and honest question. As you're seeing so many different tools come out there, it's nice to just be able to kind of find out, what are the differences. Another one that comes up too is documentation. I think it's a great place to go, jump into our documentation, see how thorough it is, see how organized it is. That's one that is sort of next to the technology, but super important, right? When you're building, that's kind of the consistent response that we hear from the community. Okay.
Maybe one last thing that I can mention here, now that you brought up the documentation, we have a breaking change policy. So it means that Haystack is quite stable. So we quite value the quality of the code. So if there is a new feature, we make sure that it is working, and we think that things have changed and people are not happy with the current implementation, you will know it ahead. We'll let you know through the release notes. You'll get relevant warnings, and even if you like try to run the same code with a different version of Haystack, either it will work or you will have the documentation or the sources that you need to migrate that code to the newer version. So this is also a very important point of Haystack, I would say.
Good stuff. Yes, indeed. Stability is super important. Yeah, it's a key ingredient of production readiness and being able to rely on this, system not breaking, in an inopportune moment for you and putting you in a compromising position. Okay, let's go through. We got a lot of questions. I think we're not going to be able to cover them all, but we're going to be able to follow up over email. But love to see all of the interaction here. So here's one that comes up that's maybe a little bit more on the technical side from Shri. She says, how do you support those who need to use different chunking strategies? Let's say, different document structures based on chunking and maybe an IDP use case, maybe versus like another use case like RAG, right? We see this all the time. Maybe Toby, you take this one. What are some of the ways that you can take control of that particular area?
Yeah, you would usually go to the pipeline builder and then use the document splitter component, as you've seen previously in the indexing pipeline. And if that's not up to your needs or requirements, then I would just tell you to write your own custom component and upload that to DeepSet Studio, and you're ready to go. So you have full control, either using kind of provided out-of-the-box solutions like the document splitter, or provide your own custom components to tackle this.
Wonderful. Savannamir asks a question here around security, privacy. I see a few other similar types of questions here. Let's keep it with you, Toby. So how does Haystack Studio and DeepSet Cloud, right, or DeepSet Studio and DeepSet Cloud, handle that sensitive or confidential information? What are some of the things that are important to know about the security posture?
I think here it's important to mention that we as a company, DeepSet, are SOC 2 certified, and we're actually in the process of getting ISO certified as well. So this means like internally in the company, we have a lot of best practices in place. We're in fact also getting audited by external companies. So this is not just us telling you that your data is safe with us, but this is actually also external auditors telling you that. And then within the platform, we also have extensive support to actually handle your data securely, right? Be it different roles and access roles if you want to invite others that they can't access all of your data, for example, or as well, like the share prototype was also a good example earlier, where you can share your pipeline, but they don't get actually access to your data.
Great, thanks, Toby. I see we're at the top of the hour here. We're going to have a number of different questions to follow up with. We have dozens of questions that came in, so that's great. It's great to see the interaction and engagement, but we are going to have to wrap up here this morning or afternoon. So listen, I want to just say thank you to everybody here today for joining, for your interactions, for sharing your questions. We will share those resources out to you that we saw on the screen just a moment ago, so you can get into DeepSet Cloud, into the studio. You can learn more about DeepSet Cloud and book some time with us if you like, get to the cool vendor report. You can also reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. We're all on LinkedIn if you want to, connect and follow us or reach out for a chat. Or as Bill Gates said, she's over on Discord as well. So we're all available here to keep that conversation going. Yeah, with that, from all of us here at DeepSet, we really thank you for this opportunity to share how everything fits together. We hope to help power your success in Gen AI building, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.